Most people think the next world war will be fought with fighter jets and aircraft carriers. But they're wrong. The real war is already underway, and it's not being fought on a battlefield. It's happening in the factories and laboratories of a new global power. This is the story of how the West is being left behind. For decades, military strength was measured in steel and firepower. The number of aircraft carriers, the stealth of a fighter jet, the range of a missile. This was America's world, a dominance built on 20th century industrial might. But while the US and its allies focused on maintaining this traditional edge, the very definition of power was being rewritten. The next global conflict won't be won by the nation with the most ships, but by the one with the most robots. It will be a war of automation, of algorithms, of autonomous systems moving at a speed and scale that humans can't possibly track. Chinese military strategists have a name for it: intelligentized warfare. It's a vision where AI-assisted commanders direct robotic forces, turning the chaos of battle into something that looks more like a video game. And in this new arms race, America is finding itself dangerously behind schedule. The hard truth is that while the US builds prototypes, China is mastering production. While Washington debates, Beijing builds. This isn't some far-off problem, it's happening right now. And it's not just about weapons, it's about the raw industrial power to create and deploy them on a scale the world has never seen. The story of this new arms race starts with a government blueprint. Made in China 2025. Launched in 2015, this state-driven industrial policy pinpointed robotics as a key sector for global dominance. What followed was a flood of capital and a systematic, government-led push that dwarfs anything in the West, backed by a sovereign wealth fund for robotics and AI worth over $100 billion. The results of that decade-long focus are now impossible to miss. In 2023, China installed around 290,000 new industrial robots, more than the rest of the world combined. In that same period, the United States installed about 34,000. This has sent China's robot density, a key measure of automation, soaring. Back in 2022, it was approaching 400 robots per 10,000 workers and has since surged past industrial leaders like Germany. The country now has over 2 million industrial robots in operation, a global record. But it's not just about the numbers, it's about who is making the machines. For the first time ever, Chinese domestic robot manufacturers are outselling their international competitors inside China, capturing over half the market, a massive jump from less than 30% just a decade ago. They aren't just buying the world's robots anymore. They're becoming the world's robot factory. This industrial base is the foundation for something much bigger, a robotic army. And this isn't science fiction. This is hardware being tested today. Take the Chinese company Unitree Robotics. While it markets its products for civilian use, its robot dogs have been seen in military drills with rifles strapped to their backs. During the Golden Dragon 2024 joint exercises with Cambodia, the People's Liberation Army, PLA, deployed 2 types of these robotic dogs for reconnaissance and combat. A PLA soldier told state television the robot could conduct a firepower strike, calling it a new team member for our urban attack operations. While Western companies like Boston Dynamics have pledged not to weaponize their platforms, Unitree has sold its technology to Chinese universities with deep ties to PLA weapons research. And the technology is accessible. A Unitree robot dog can cost as little as $3,000, while its American equivalent, Spot, comes with a $75,000 price tag. This 80% of equality for 20% of the price approach is a classic Chinese industrial strategy, enabling mass production on a scale the West can't currently match. Beyond 4-legged machines, the next battleground is the humanoid robot. China's government has set an official goal to mass-produce humanoid robots by 2025 and become a world leader in the technology by 2027. At the 2025 World Robot Conference, over 60 different humanoid robots were on display, doing everything from factory work to kickboxing. Chinese companies are advancing so quickly that some models, like the Unitree G1, are already advertised as being free of American components. These robots are being designed for the real world. In Hefei, a company is demonstrating humanoids that can clean tables and fold clothes. Another model boasts lifelike skin and 30 facial muscles to simulate human expressions, designed for companionship. This push for mass adoption creates a priceless feedback loop, generating enormous amounts of data to train and accelerate AI development. Chinese strategists see these robots not just in factories, but on the front lines, handling logistics, reconnaissance, and combat. The US has recognized the threat. The Pentagon's Replicator Initiative, announced in 2023, aims to field thousands of cheap, disposable autonomous systems within 2 years to counter China's numbers. But this is a reactive move. The US is trying to build a drone army. China is building the industrial ecosystem that can produce any kind of robot army it wants, at a scale and cost the West is simply not structured to compete with. The rise of China's robotic army isn't just about the machines themselves. It's about what it takes to build them. Building millions of advanced robots requires a vast and complex supply chain, and China has strategically placed itself at the very center of this global network. This control over the essential ingredients of modern technology is a weapon, less visible than a tank, but far more powerful. The most critical components are rare earth elements. These 17 minerals are the lifeblood of high-tech manufacturing, essential for the powerful magnets that drive electric motors in everything from EVs to the high-performance joints in a robot. China's control here is staggering. Between 2020 and 2023, it was responsible for about 70% of the world's rare earth mining. But its real power lies in processing, where it handles nearly 90% of the world's rare earths and manufactures over 90% of the high-performance magnets the world depends on. This gives Beijing incredible leverage. In response to trade tensions, the Chinese government has already restricted exports of some rare earth materials and technologies, showing it's not afraid to weaponize the supply chain. For the United States, which imports roughly 70% of its rare earth compounds from China, this is a massive strategic weakness. While Western governments are now scrambling to invest in their own mining and processing, experts agree it will take years, if not decades, to build a truly independent supply chain. This control goes far beyond raw materials. China's strategy of military-civil fusion actively links civilian tech companies with the defense sector, ensuring that commercial innovations are rapidly adapted for military use. As a result, China's reliance on foreign tech for core robot components is shrinking. For instance, in the market for mobile industrial robots, domestic Chinese vendors now command a market share of around 90%. This creates a dangerous feedback loop for the West. As Chinese companies dominate production, they achieve economies of scale that Western firms can't match. The more robots they build, the cheaper they get, and the more data they collect to train their AI, further widening their lead. The West's model, in contrast, is fragmented and relies on a globalized supply chain that is now a critical vulnerability. A product labeled Made in USA can still have its most important components originate in China. America may lead in high-end, bespoke innovation, creating the single most advanced robot, but China is mastering mass production, which history shows is what ultimately determines industrial and military power. This growing technological and industrial gap isn't just an economic issue. It's already reshaping the global balance of power and redefining conflict itself. The era of conventional warfare, defined by symmetrical forces of ships and soldiers, is ending. In its place, the age of intelligentized warfare is dawning, with stark implications for flashpoints like Taiwan. Chinese military thinking is clear. By integrating AI and autonomous systems, the PLA believes it can identify and strike an adversary's weak points so fast that it overwhelms human decision-making. The goal isn't just to defeat an enemy, but to paralyze them, creating a state of shock and confusion where the will to fight collapses before the battle even begins. Imagine how a conflict over Taiwan might start. Instead of a massive amphibious invasion, it could begin with swarms of intelligent, cheap, and disposable drones. They wouldn't need to sink a US aircraft carrier, which would risk massive escalation. They would just need to disable its sensors, jam its communications, and overwhelm its defenses with thousands of targets. On the ground in Taiwan, swarms of robotic dogs could be deployed to secure infrastructure and sow chaos in cities, all with no risk to human soldiers. While these are future scenarios, some recent US war games have already suggested that large swarms of autonomous systems could be a decisive factor in a potential conflict over Taiwan. The problem is, China is building these swarms and the industrial capacity to replace them at a pace the US is struggling to match. The American military may have a qualitative edge with its high-end platforms, but China is betting on quantity, an overwhelming mass of autonomous systems that could make that edge irrelevant. This asymmetry changes the entire calculus of deterrence. For decades, American military might has guaranteed security in the Asia-Pacific. But what happens when that might can be neutralized by a completely different kind of force? This shift is forcing a painful reevaluation in Washington. The Pentagon's Replicator Initiative is an open admission that its traditional focus on expensive, small-batch platforms is no longer enough. But the challenge runs deeper. It strikes at the heart of the American defense industry, which is built for slow, costly development, not the rapid, mass production of affordable systems that commercial markets demand. This tech race is also creating new dynamics in global alliances. As China becomes the world's top producer of capable, low-cost robots, it gains a new kind of influence. Nations that rely on China for the robots that power their factories may be less likely to side with the United States in a future conflict. We are at a historic turning point. The assumptions that have governed global power for nearly a century are being dismantled, not by armies, but by silicon, code, and steel. The shift toward an automated world is happening, and its epicenter is in China. This isn't just a story about the decline of one nation, but about the rise of a new kind of power, one built on industrial scale, technological integration, and blistering speed. The West's advantage has always been its innovative edge, but innovation without production is just a blueprint without a factory. China has built the factory. It has cultivated the supply chains and aligned its national will toward one goal, dominating the technologies that will define the future. From the factory floor to the potential battlefield, the robotic revolution is unfolding with an urgency the rest of the world has yet to fully grasp. The age of the robotic soldier is here. The only question left is, who will command them?